Hi, I'm Dave Bryce with Music Player Network, and we are here in lovely Southern California with Michele Canova.
Hey, David, how are you?
Good to see you, my
Good
brother.
to see you.
Appreciate you
Good to see
having
you.
us here. We are
A
in
pleasure.
Michele's toy studio. As you can see by the blinky lights behind me, it's all full of synthesizers and other kinds of musical instruments. And Michele's going to take us around the studio and show us what he's got.
I mean, should we start with the synthesizer wall?
Sure.
So we have like this wonderful like piece from Macbeth, you know, the Scottish manufacturer.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
basically recreated like in his mind one of those 5 units, you know, synthesizer from Moog, but it's obviously it's new design. So
This is like a modular version of the M5
Exactly.
that he had for a while.
in some way, and I actually own, by the way,
So did I.
one big white M5 in my studio in Milan. Yeah,
The
it was great.
The black and orange one, yeah.
Exactly. So I think this is like it's a mix between that and his interpretation of the original 5-unit Moog synthesizer.
So is this one semi-normal like the M5
yeah,
was
exactly.
as well?
Exactly. And the cool thing about that he asks you how would you like it to be semi-normal.
best.
So basically, in this case, it's just 2 oscillator into one of the mixer, you know, and then a filter that goes after the mixer. And I think the B filter is totally free for me to patch in, you know. So, but it's cool because I can always access this side, even with guitar players. You know, sometimes I send their output directly to the filters, you know, and then get some LFO to modulate the filter. Maybe sending, you know, the timing and the timing of the click through my inner clock system, you know, from Australia, so I can always sync to the click in 1 second and have everything, you know, working. So after that we have the mighty, you know, from Sequentics, the Circlone, you know, the incredible sequencer with like 1.5 years of wait time to just get one. It's crazy. And I got the version with the D25, you know, detached, you know, Era Rack module, so I can basically control a bunch of modules directly from the sequencer.
Wonderful.
Which is great. And also the MIDI in clock gets a clock from my inner clock too, so even that one is synchronized to my Pro Tools system. Then, you know, without forgetting about the small, you know, DFAM from Moog, which I still love. It's connected to my sound grid interface, one of the many sound grid interfaces from Waves, right there, like the turntable, which I use for sampling or just for listening vinyls. Great thing about it, it's also the Sobro table. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's very handy for musicians or for people. So on one side you have just a normal drawer. On the other side you have a fridge drawer, which is already great. But on top of that, the whole top is wireless charging. So you can just drop your phone here.
Oh, this is
and
so
then
cool.
there's a lot of other, you know, cable and connection, USB charging thing that came out. And it was on Kickstarter.
What's it called?
It's Sobro, S-O-B-R-O.
What it cost?
$300, something like that. It's nice.
I have to have one.
Yeah.
This is the danger of toy tours.
That's the danger. And we're just like on 20 inches.
We haven't even started.
Okay, so
Anyway, go ahead.
let's move on to the big Euro Rack modular synthesizer. I built this I started building this in 2007.
Wow.
And I mean, piece after piece, and then selling and trading, and then with the, you know, great guys at Perfect Circuit or Analog Heaven, a lot of these, you know, guys they really suggested the new modules to buy or the modules to sell. So it's basically constantly evolving. You know, one of the main purposes is always to try to not keep too many crazy holes around, you know, because once you sell like a big, you know, module, you have like this big hole around. So basically, we're always trying to make it look cool too, you know.
I make a joke about that. I said, guys with modular synthesizers is dangerous because we hate empty holes. It's a genetic imperative is to fill the empty hole.
And everything we do with this is just blips and blobs, by the way. So, you know, at the very end, you can do this with a $100, you know, synthesizer from Casio.
But not with this kind of a groove. Come on, man. It's all about
It's
the groove.
great.
Creative.
I mean, you know what I really love about Euro modular synthesizer is when you realize that the way that you the way you put your modules doesn't really work with your workflow, and you wanna reorganize everything. So that's basically a couple of days of just, you know, rethinking on a Excel, you know, worksheet just to. So the last time I did this, it actually was great because I finally understood for my workflow that I really love to have separate stuff, similar stuff all together. So all the sequencer now are finally in this area, all the steel sequencer here, all the filters are in the same area, all the oscillator in the same area, everything that's tool and utility, it's up. So that really, in some way simplified my workflow, because whenever, how it is, you're writing a song or you're doing like a quick production for a song, you don't want to spend 3 hours to tailor like a kick drum. I mean, I want to do it, but after 3 hours of just a kick drum, someone else is asking for the mix, So at least now, like all the drum modules are here, and I can easily select a kick drum that I want to do. All the sequences are here, so it's faster, to access.
Makes sense.
After that, still in this area, we have the I forgot the polyend. The polyend sequencer, which is basically another. I love sequencer, by the way. Did you get from that to all this area? And so this is basically both a MIDI sequencer, where all these lanes are simply
like a 32 by 8.
32, yeah. But this one too has a D25 Eurorack output,
also.
which goes exactly to another place, which I forgot. It should be around here. Here it is. so basically I have another point where to patch CV and gates coming out from a sequencer.
Excellent.
A small utility, just for controlling. So basically pressure points and René. So a quick way of controlling other modules by simply, pressure points, or by simply entering a pattern here in the René sequencer. Down we have
Qualifies as an alternate controller.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would say so.
Do you have one of the touch ones that
Yes. So down we have, serial number 7 of the Moog one,
Ooh.
That's great. That's a great, polyphonic analog. This is the 8 voice, which sometimes it may be, not enough, 8 voices for, playing big, parts they have layered like 3 synths.
Plus they made it stackable, so
Exactly.
it can really
Yeah,
torture you, and
yeah.
we can reduce it to get the good sound. You have 4 voices, and it's like, I need the bigger one.
If we want, we want to go for the pedals too. I mean, those are, big, guitar,
Oh
pedal.
no, let's say for the keys, just
Yeah.
like say, look, there's lots and lots of really cool guitar pedals there. Just
So
save it for a later video later on. Okay.
Moving to the other stuff, we have the GR1, a granular synthesizer
yeah.
from Tasty Chips Electronics, a great, hardware with, I think it's Arduino based, with a great display where you can basically, load your own samples and use the granular engine inside.
How cool.
And that's really, really great. And, you can also pitch. I think it's polyphonic up to 4 voices, so you can have 4 of the same sample running the granular synthesizer.
The interface
pitching,
looks
yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah, it's great.
I love graphic interfaces like that.
And moving on the right, we have my almighty Mini Moog, bought like a few years ago from Perfect Circuit. I love it. It's very well kept, but still, one of the very first. I think it's pre-2000 serial number. I love it to death. And still using the feedback phone trick that goes into the filter input.
Yep.
That when I enable for probably there's some people that don't know that, so like you basically connect the phone output to the filter input, then by selecting the input, the external input, just by raising the input volume, you create a feedback between the sound of the oscillator and the input, and that bolden up the sound basically.
I think you can do a similar thing with the low and the high outputs.
Yeah.
In as well.
100%. And so down we have the Prophet X from Dave Smith, actually from Sequential. Like this is rendered by Sequential. Great mix between samples from 8Dio and Dave Smith engine, and analog filters. I love it, and constantly buying new expansions to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a controller, 88 keys controller from Native Instruments, the newer version with the 2 displays. It interfaces very easily with all these software synthesizers, so you can see basically the controls directly into the 2 screens. Moving on, we have 2 products from the great company.
Millen yet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's
Keith
there.
McMillan.
Why
Yeah, it's there.
Why?
Why it's not connected? Because you know why? I use it on my MacBook Pro, and my MacBook Pro typically resides in my home. So only when I bring my MacBook Pro, I
Got
connect
it.
that. You know,
I was just
it's a
wondering
great
why it
piece.
was
Yeah,
sitting there. It's
yeah,
like-
yeah. No, there's no specific reason.
Well, no, because a lot of some people enjoy the workflow of having the controller with the buttons.
I agree.
To be able
Yeah.
to do that, I was wondering if you were
Yeah,
using
no,
it
no,
for
no.
that.
It's there because, as you can see, there's no more space available, so it's there. But
So this is keyboard wise. This would probably be your main creating space. I
Exactly.
would think this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
mono
this and the-
synth,
and the area
the
of the-
polysynth
yeah.
and the weighted.
And then going on,
Sure.
I would say continuing the synthesizers, we have still, the ratio of the two voice by Tom Hoberheim, which is spot on. It's great. It's one
Whoa,
of those.
yeah.
It's one of those pieces that you will never want to sell, because it was one of my dream synths, the two voice when I was a kid, and now having a ratio that's exactly like that, it's such a dream coming true. Another great piece, another monophonic that sounds in a different way. It's not a minimal clone. It's the Vermona. Which has only two oscillators and also the sub oscillator, but the power of the filter, the driving, you can drive the filter and you can drive both oscillators in the mixer, almost a la subsequent, I think.
So is the sub oscillator just a square?
Yeah, but and the way they implemented both a basic version of a sequencer and an arpeggiator inside, it makes it really, really unique. On top of that, I think they did only 2,000 or they have a number, that they use as like a limited,
What year was this made?
When it was made?
Yeah,
2014.
So this way post.
It's because it's called Vermona 14, actually. Yeah. No, it's great. At the end of the of that, there's the Muffen. I don't know if you're familiar with that drone. It's a Muffen Ziffer
I have
drone.
no
This
idea
guy,
what that is.
This guy is. I mean, I'm not really familiar with all the product line, but that's like a drone where you can actually, control not only the pitch and the filter part of the droning, but also like a lot of modulation coming from both an ADSR here and from other stuff. So basically, and you can also have, I think, an expression pedal here to modulate all this stuff.
Very Buckler motivated.
I would say
Buckler
so.
motivated.
Yeah.
Easel. No, not
It's
easel.
great, searching for a drone, that's great. Before going to the electromechanical, I would go for the Critter and Guitari. I almost own all the lineup. So from the sampler to the Septavox. So if you're not familiar, Critter and Guitari
I'm not familiar with
it's
this
a company
line.
from Portland, building almost every synthesizer, every instrument they do in this mix by wood and metal. They all have batteries, in the back. And this is a sampler with a contact microphone that can actually reverse, and you can play with your sampling directly with a knob, almost acting like a turntable.
Well, how can you tell what's going on with the buttons? Is there some kind of computer interface
No, you
for it?
you
Or just...
need
you
to
read the instructions.
You need to know what. But basically, you sample with this, so you sample with this, you sample with this, and then
You sample with this.
Oh, how cool.
so it's fast. It's fast, and it's actually
So there's
very
a-
musical because you can take, the sampling and then stopping the sample. If you do it like in a musical way, the loop you create can be pitched by semitones, not only by variables. So this button serves to switch between semitones or to basically infinite, so you can still be in tune. If you sample a recording and then you re-record what you're doing with this, you can still be like a -12.
I get it.
Plus, it's interesting,
What does something like this cost?
I would say $300, something like that.
really?
$300, and it's a
Wood
sample
on this side.
Yeah.
And looked at this.
No, it's very well
SD
made.
card over there.
Yeah, that's the card here.
What's the rest of it? It's
Very well made. And also, Septavox is a 7 voices polyphonic synthesizer that plays both on a speaker. But I think it's out of battery because
Does it have USB or MIDI? Where you have to use these?
no, you can use it via MIDI. So as you see, it
Oh, I
has a
was going to see
MIDI
the jack in
input.
the back here.
Yeah, the jack is good sending the output through my Pro Tools system. But if you disconnect this, you're gonna use the speaker.
Huh.
But someone probably used it yesterday and left it on, so now it's out of battery. But this sound is great. They do a bass only version. Doesn't have a speaker, and this is more for recreating 808s or sub basses, and it
So you have like filter controls and
filter
a
controls,
little bit
pitch
of
controls,
envelope, yeah.
volume, and then with this you choose between different sound waves.
So you got to actually remember how it works.
Yeah,
You gotta
I
use
know,
your
but
brain
no,
on
no.
this.
Look,
It's confusing.
every one of these has instructions.
Ah, look, we got the instructions on the back. This
Every
is
one of them.
very, very nice.
There's a speaker.
So you
that
don't
they
forget.
do.
And this one uses a 9-volt, not just a
Guitar speaker with batteries, with all the controls, with
What's the name of
distortion.
this company again?
Critter and Guitari.
Critter and Guitari. Very
winner.
cool.
And then
Give them a plug.
Lately, they came out with Organelle, which is like a more complex synthesizer with actually an OLED display, and with you can program through programming language that you can actually upload, synthesizer or samplers directly through USB.
Very cool.
This is like a little bit more out of my range. I mean, in the sense that I'm not taking a lot of time to, program exactly in a programming language, but I uploaded a lot of presets that have been made for this, and they're pretty interesting because you can move between an effect unit or a sampler or just a piano.
That's amazing.
It's interesting.
Once again, sub $500.
Yeah, probably $400. Yeah. Nice. Then below we see like vintage vibe. Great guys from Jersey, New Jersey. So the recreation of the roads and the recreation of the clavinet, basically. They call it vibinet.
Yep.
It's great. It's like made in 2020. So I mean, it's with all the advances in mechanical quality and I mean, I use it all the time. And it's great. And the sound of it, it's incredible.
Pickup selective. Yeah, I see.
Great thing about the Rhodes Recreation is they included effect loop in the back.
Nice.
Very well shielded, so it's already sending. That's why you saw all
mono
those
loop,
pedals.
stereo loop?
Mono. But mono loop, and then obviously you got the vibrato, which is stereo.
Stereo,
So
yeah.
then you can have, let's say, a distortion, or you can have like a reverb. But then the reverb in mono comes back and goes through the stereo.
Totally get it.
So it's fantastic,
Gives you total control that way.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Shall we move to the main desk? In the main desk, we have still something very, relatable to synth player, because these guys from Greece are doing, a lot of great synths. I forgot the name of the company, which is
Dreadbox?
which is Dreadbox. Yes, Dreadbox. So this is just chorus, delay, and reverb analog in one box. Mm-hmm. You see the spring exposed here, and it's interesting because both for the look and for the sound, it's really 80s reminiscent. So you just send a pad, you send a lead synth through the combination of a chorus, flanger, delay, and reverb, and you get instant like Tom Cruise or
very cool.
Yeah, like a soundtrack from Top Gun.
And does the proximity to your mix position indicate that these are devices that you use an awful lot?
No, I mean, it depends. These are typically devices that I bought more recently,
Okay.
and I want to explore a little bit
Check
more.
them out, right.
Or devices that like this, it's just a filter that's connected to the computer, like the Electron.
I see a keyboard.
Yeah, that I love. Yeah.
Just a little tiny one there. It's fabulous.
Yeah, but not only a keyboard, you see also the Isla Kickstarter. I forgot his name, but basically all the chords in the word here. See, you probably can see it better from here. Look, I want to show it.
We're going to get high tech and light it up with the iPhone.
Yeah,
Hold on a
exactly.
second.
Look at this.
It's really high tech presentation.
So this is chord bot from Isla Instruments. So you can have all the progressions. Wait, because probably there's a USB. Okay. And you can assign all the progressions into pads. So you can have ready, a bunch of chord progression that you can save. So you can preview a C minor 7th. You like it, you save it to here. And this is MIDI and generates MIDI that goes through USB to your Pro Tools. So you can even create your own chord progression. Save it there, and then experiment maybe with the synthesizer, having it saved on this.
Interesting.
It's handy.
Really, really interesting.
It's interesting if you're sometimes you have like maybe writer's block or something like that. That's easy. It brings you to different words. So in the whole desk we see the Dreadbox, then we see the Electron filter that I spoke before. Then we see this incredible. I love this 303 Recreation. I mean, it's more than a 303. The company in Long Beach called Abstract Instruments doing this Avalon. So to me, this is the best 303 recreation because it's not only a 303 recreation, but it's a lot more
with
stuff,
all the
you know.
mods that
It's a
everybody
lot
put
more
into
stuff,
them over the
and
years.
also a lot of you know about the analog cartridges where you have different filters. This is the filter for like it recreates the Rota filter. You have the ladder filter from the Moog. You have the Oberheim SEM filter. You know,
We're talking about the analog devices guys, not analog devices. Who made your MIDI Moog? They made that one. Do you remember this?
Studio Electronics.
Yeah. They had that synthesizer that also had the plug-in.
Oh, you're right. I had it actually.
So
Yeah.
the 80s or 90s, wasn't it?
Maybe even later, but I remember totally, yeah, because then they did the Code 8, after
Right,
that.
Code 2,
yeah, but
Code
before
8.
that, yeah, exactly.
But we digress. Sorry.
Even the Code 8, if you remember, had the optional, filter outputs, so you could put like CS80s, similar CS80 filters or something. I remember 303 filters,
Yeah, man.
So after that, we moved to, this great reverb plus filter from a French company called Auto. Then general, mixing related stuff, so Avid, Pro Tools dock and something just for controlling my Pro Tools system.
And that's the extent. Hold on, let's stay there for just a second. If I'm interpreting what I'm seeing here, I mean that's really the bulk of your mixing. It's all
it's
there.
cool because now you can have the Avid, application running on your iPad, and then this is basically incorporated into the Pro Tools dock, which is this, hardware made by Avid, where basically you have just one fader, but you can technically, control all the faders just by clicking on the iPad.
Grouping you want,
And
right.
also you have like transport controls here, you have macro that you can save in all these touch strips,
That's
it's amazing because, you can spare such,
So much
big amount
room.
of space.
Yeah,
I come
man.
from an S6, I had this big, Avid S6, and this is, it's enough for me. I understand there's a lot of people, especially in the post-war that they need like to have in front of them like 24 or 48 faders. That I'm more of a producer and mixer, so that's enough for me.
Wonderful.
And then on top, Akai still going strong with his MPC X. I've always been a fan of all the MPCs since starting from the 60s.
Everybody is. It's you got used to the workflow of the
exactly,
thing from
and
back
the
in
workflow
80s.
is still there. On top of that, it's touchscreen. I love it. You can put an SSD inside. I put like a 100 gigabytes SSD with all my libraries. It connects via USB to your computer. It's fast, and it's a way of making beats that I always loved. In the back, piece that I still, value a lot because it's a TC Electronic metering system that I use a lot when mixing, and it's an external, so it's not connected to any computer, just a standalone unit that whenever I play something, you just see real time, hopefully, because now it's, because probably
Get used to those on
we're
SSL.
solo. I just want to show you if I knew where you have instant feedback on everything, on both RMS level, spectrograms and, radar. That's really handy, and your stereo, field. Moving on this, what I call this also my mastering, recording chain. So a lot of this stuff is made for mastering, like the handy amps, Michelangelo, which is a great Valve EQ, great valve compressor Pollock, made by the same company, Handy Amps. They are based in Houston. They are doing really great stuff. Subtle. So we're not talking about broad strokes. We're talking about subtle thing for mixing and mastering, but great. Foot. Mastering compressor, final touch on my mix before going back to the AD. Overstayer, which I'm a fan of, and I have 3 pieces. This is the distortion harmonic designer. This is their dual channel, both a recording channel with 2 pre's, 2 filters, EQ, compressor, and distortion, all in 2 units.
And this is the only thing that's in this chain that's doing any kind of tone control. Almost everything else is compression. Yeah.
No, this is tone control. This is an EQ. This is a compressor. This is still tone control because it's distortion, and this is more creative recording, but also filtering, also distorting. So it can be both in my recording chain because what it is that I'm using this liaison from Dangerous to switch between mastering. So if one is not pressed in, everything else it's stereo outboard that I can insert in my master fader.
Got it. So this is basically like a routing system for your 2 bus.
Exactly. But if I press one One is actually getting the sound from my Manley mic made, which basically it's all my microphone in the vocal booth connected to all the top 4 pre's that I have there. And they have a common output that goes into one. It goes actually inside this. So once I press 1, this becomes a recording chain.
Right,
if I don't
exactly.
press 1, it's my mastering chain. It's a smart way to, use this device in creative ways, And then you have another insert, which is connected to my HDIOs, my Avid HDIOs, where basically I can choose only device 3 to go as an insert in a drum parallel inside my mix.
Right.
Instead, this is my master, parallel, my master chain. So that goes on my 2 bus. So I can still choose to have 2 separate chains and choose one single device or 2 single devices to go on a single chain. So it's pretty.
That's really comprehensive and
but-
way
but-
flexible.
But the design, the Dangerous put in this, it's really great.
That's what made it possible, sure. But it's, you're the one that came up with the idea for the routing.
Yes, but it wouldn't be possible without them.
Yeah, it's a
So we
beautiful thing.
move to the right, where we have some more outboard gear. It's more dedicated to mixing and mastering. Audio gear. I also have that wonderful vocoder remade by Behringer, and basically the reinterpretation of some old rolled stuff.
SVC 350.
Exactly, which I love, by the way. And you want to go on? Yeah, we have Jaime here.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean
No
to
worries.
interrupt. I
No,
didn't
no
know.
worries. So it's all good. So on the right side we have what I say it's more like my summing, outside the box thing. So all this area, it's basically a copy, classic audio products from Chicago. Summer, which is this, it's called Sambas. It's 16 channels. Before hitting the first 8 channels, when I mix outside the box, I go through my copy rack of gear. So recreational 560 and recreational 550.
550As or
550As. 550As.
Reach out, the 3 bands. Yep.
And they sound great. I typically, when I split, my mixes, I go outside the box through my symphony, and I hit 1 and 2 for the drums, 3 and 4 for the bass, 5 and 6 for the guitar. So it's handy to have already, some kind of hardware set up in a way that I don't need to recall, a lot, because every one of these, equalizers, as you can see, they're detented. So even the 560s that originally are with these knobs incredibly hard to recall, now they are on detented knobs. So very easy to recall.
And the 550s always were. I know.
100%.
course, yeah.
So after that's typically my instrumental outside of the box, mixing, and the main instrumental bus goes through the 2 Pultecs.
So these are all mix tools, or are you using any of these as input tools? to
No, I
craft
only
signal
use
on the
this
way
as
into the box?
mixing outside the box. So when I decide not to mix in the box, I use this basically symphony to get 16 mono outputs out. The 16 mono, the first 8 they hit this rack. The second 8 directly 9 to 16 from the Sambas to the Sambas. So after the first 8, after they hit this rack, they hit the 1 to 8 on the Sambas. They pre-mix. So the cool thing about Sambas, you can get it built with 2 different stereo buses.
Right.
One could be more colored depending on what
one more neutral.
what transformer you decide you choose, and one more neutral. So the green assignment is bus 1 and 2, which is the most colored. 1 and 2 goes after, so output 1 and 2 goes directly to the 2 Pultecs. And then the 2 Pultecs go to SSL Fusion. And the Fusion goes back into input 1 and 2 of the symphony. Instead, 15 and 16, which typically is my vocals, they go directly to 3 and 4 of the Apogee. So what happens is basically I mix in the box a lot of the time vocals with instrumental. That gives me a lot of flexibility of treating the vocal differently, or making an instrumental version of the track in 1 second just by muting the input,
I love it.
and a lot of other stuff. Or if I decided I want the gel of just 1 bus, I just go everything 1 and 2. So after they get the treatment from the Fusion, they go back to 1 and 2, and basically what I have is like a sound version of my mix inside the box.
Kids, this is what we call advanced studio. Don't try this at home.
It's 29 years of craziness.
No, this is amazing. The thought and effort and
As you-
amount of time that must have been put into
As you can
each of these
see
sections.
on the basically low part of my left rack, there's all the interfaces. So I use Pro Tools, so there's a lot of HDIOs, but also you can probably notice a DigiGrid server, because a lot of the stuff I'm integrating, it's through SoundGrid and DigiGrid interfaces by Waves, which I love because I can simply deploy an Ethernet cable around the studio and then suddenly connect an interface and I have 12 or 24 inputs ready, you know?
Wonderful.
So that's it. So another highlight is my JCF audio converter, which is there. It's my mastering. It's basically my 2-bus ADDA. So before hitting and after hitting my mastering chain, that's what I use for my masters. You know, I'm not using an HDIO. Just for like insert 2 on my liaison, it's directly connected to AD and DA of that JCF audio, which
Understood.
I love. On the right side, still more stuff. RCA OP, what's the original? The RCA 6A. I don't remember the original from the 60s, but that's retro instrument recreation of that pre. Mm-hmm. Love it. Not a lot of headroom, but that's also a plus because you can different degrees of distortion and saturation, which and also mic impedance on the top, so to change quickly, the sound basically.
I'm a huge fan of variable impedance.
I know that. Yeah. And on the right side, API 500 rack with a lot of toys that I love, like the Roger Schultz passive equalizers or the Shadow Hills, compressor, the 2D mic pre, Sunset Sound mic pre, basically, 1073's pre, the Maris effects, a lot of the times, what I do, because you love synthesizers like me, I just connect a mono input directly to, so this is all normalized, basically, this last 4. So I just connect a keyboard or a toy like those Critter and guitar thing to this, and this gets into the bit reducer, so I can reduce the bit and the sample rate, and then get to an old 553, which was an induction based EQ from API from the 70s. So it's like a Pultec. So fixed frequency, 100, 1000, 10,000. No, you don't have anything to fill around. You just can, but the concept is it's induction, so it sounds like a Pultec, right? That kind of like presence in the low end. And lately, the last one is the reverb from Maris. So basically, you connect a synth, you can instantly get a grittiness, some more EQ, and then a reverb, and all in the mono, and that's actually comes normalized to the right channel of the one. So on the one on the left, I typically get the vocal booth, and on the right channel, which in my case it's labeled like JCF right, I get this. So it's very easy, once you know what to do, basically, to get instant sound.
So let me ask you this: is any of this written down anywhere? Or is it just all
in my mind? Yeah, it's probably in my mind. That's the problem. If I die, someone will never know.
You guys are in some trouble.
So
interns are like,
just to finish, this right rack with Shadow Hills mastering compressor, Class A version. Very few made of this. I don't know I own actually in Italy the normal. I
think it was like 10 grand, wasn't it?
No, a little bit less. I think it's 7,800, something like that. But this is supposed to be even better because it's all Class A.
Yeah.
And you recognize it by the red LED instead of the green LED. Then
So sexy.
Heritage, recreation of 1070. Actually,
Pedro.
even better. Pedro, 8173. So 1073 pre, 1081 EQ, 2264 compressor. All in one nice 3-unit package, which I love, and it's my go-to basically recording channel. Analog Tube Recreation of the Fairchild, another great company from England, basically the real deal. 27 tubes behind. It warms up the whole room. In fact, we need to have a dedicated fan.
What is this one?
Here.
What is this one cost? Because this is like the 760. The 760 sell for like $40,000.
Yeah,
The real
and
ones,
now
right?
$19,000.
19.
So
Only
cheap.
19 grand for stereo compressor.
No, but can I tell
such
you,
compression.
Can I tell you, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's when they ask you what's the piece of gear you're gonna keep in a desert island. Probably
$20,000 compressor.
It's gonna be hard to bring it on the island, but and I don't know what to connect it to. But,
Right.
But still,
What will we be compressing? Doesn't matter. I have it with
Doesn't
me.
matter, I have it. So, stereo valve from Belgium, La Chapelle.
yeah.
Great, very specific, not for everything, but when it works great. Bass, the DI for bass is incredible. And then Retro Mechanical Labs, after they built a lot of pedals, and now they are venturing more into the rack units. So basically, distortion, fuzz, two actually that you can actually put in series. So you can lead the first level of crazy distortion to the second level of fuzziness. I love it. Vermona reverb. Still love it. Still spring reverb. Still have it there. And then a Kemper, which is still great. Great guys. Great emulation. Great. Recreation of profiling amplifiers.
So basically, this rack is for input essentially. But I mean, there's you're
it's all
using it to be routed over to the
exactly,
as well.
exactly.
But if you had to get stuff in, you're walking over here and you're plugging it over
100%. I try to have multiple points of input because you never know. You're doing a session, you're recording a guitar. You can always get here, but you can also look. This is so handy. So this, which is a mastering thing, still has 2 quarter-inch input. So I can always enter here and get into my AD converter, maybe even for recording a guitar. So
just a quick in. So basically, this function is a quick in over here, and if you want to really have some fun,
or I can use it.
The
sound grid interface is right there.
Right. You said you have multiple ones on the studio as well.
And then in fact, as you can see, there's another one here. So every place, because that's the cool thing, You want to have one of these racks, but what if you had to connect all these keyboards directly to something or to HDAO? Look, because now we are on interface, if you move the rack, there's only, as you can see, one power and one Ethernet.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
So that's
thing.
smart. There's basically nothing. And you can move it around and close to your desk. But instead, in this rack, we have both the Minilog XD, the great, recreation, Deckard's Dream of CS80 by Black Corporation, and a couple of modular, racks, which, they include the recreation of the 808 inside the area modular space. It's really working. I forgot the name of the company. I'm sorry, but it's great. I love it. I think they're from London.
I counted it.
But it sounds spot on to me. And then, as you can see, another one of these interclock system, synchronization devices. Sure. So I can, everything. When I press play on my Pro Tools, everything is actually almost sample accurate. Which is a good, plus for me, because if you still want to be fast and create something out of all this stuff, you need to be fast. Everything should be connected in one of the separate input, and everything should be synced in a way that's better than a MIDI bit clock.
No doubt. Back to the old Garfield days.
Exactly.
Remember that stuff in J.L. Cooper?
Because the thing that when you're programming drums, the thing that really makes you sad is when you basically overdub stuff with MIDI bit clock, and it's so off every time. Instead, these guys, to me, they're lifesaver, game changer. These guys, interclock system.
Dave Rossum's module.
Yeah, Dave Rossum. That's great. Assimilator. Yeah. I think we probably didn't talk about the almighty Space Echo, which probably deserves more than thousands words.
Lovely collection of guitars up there as well. You can take
Bohemian, Modular, those guys.
Those are so cool.
Yeah, and not that we don't have some more stuff on the wall.
This is how technology has gotten. You have an SSL console sitting there on the shelf unused. Yeah. There are sentences. That's a sentence that I never thought I would say.
It's just sitting there.
Well, this is very cool. We appreciate you taking the time to show us around the studio. Obviously, it's just the amount of work and effort that went into designing this is just impressive beyond belief.
I also have to thank, part of the, I envision how to set it up, but a friend of mine, Eric Huergo, he was the guy actually putting a lot of the time to make sure that everything was pretty well connected, that the wires were almost invisible, and he put like an amount of, because you have to love this, to do this, to be able to, connect all this stuff and make it work in such a small environment. You need to love this, you need to, and then Eric was great. We want to shout out to Eric.
Absolutely, and we want to cap off by showing that all of this stuff is run through tiny little speakers. No, not really.
Oh, you forgot about
the fabulous Key 3s.
Key 3 speakers, yes, for sure. And also those big Augsburgers.
Augsburgers. Yeah, man. Very, very nice. So if you guys are wondering, but how does it all sound? It sounds pretty damn impressive. We're here to tell you. I am Dave Bryce with Music Player. I want to thank Michele Canova for showing us around the studio, and we'll see you at the movies.